welcome back for another edition of Ask Father Silva. Today's question is a simple one, but I think a really important one. The question is, what's the best way to read the Bible? Now, I think there's many important points to this question. The first being, what's the best translation of the Bible? Well, there's many approved translations of the Bible, but I would recommend using the RSV or the Revised Standard Version. Right? There's the NRSV, the New Revised Standard Version, which is very good too. But I have here the RSV, right? The Second Catholic Edition here. What's great about this is that not only is it approved by the Church, but it's typically the one we'll use for studies and things like that. Right? When we go to Mass, we hear the NAB, the New American Bible, and that's a good one as well. But I think finding a good standardized edition of the Bible is the first step to reading the Bible. I think for a lot of people it can be really intimidating. I want to encourage people, don't do what's called Bible roulette, right? Where you just kind of, what am I going to pray today? And you thumb around and you just start reading. I think for a lot of people the best place to start is the Gospels, right? Start with Mark, right? That's the first gospel that was written. It's the shortest gospel. And read and pray through the Gospels. Really know the story of Jesus. I think if you're farther along in your journey with the sacred scriptures, you can try reading the Old Testament. I encourage people very much to find a good commentary if you're going more and more into depth. Right? We have here the Catholic commentary on the sacred scriptures. They've only come out with the New Testament. So we have here, right, the Gospel of John. We have here St. Paul's letter to the Romans. Right? What's great about this is that it puts into context the whole of the scriptures, in particular with whatever it is that commentary is on. Right? John and Romans are the two examples I have here. I think what's great about them is that it goes into depth about exactly what it is that the author is talking about. We'll go into depth about the context of the time. It will go into depth about where you'll see that particular passage related in the course of the entirety of the Bible itself. You'll also see things like what the author must have meant based on the original Greek or the original Hebrew, whatever the case may be. But I think if we're just starting out to read the Bible, basically, again, read the Gospels. I think for a lot of people, there's this negative connotation that Catholics don't know their scriptures as well as our Protestant brothers and sisters. And in many cases, that's absolutely true, right? It's not about memorizing certain verses, although I think that's a beautiful and very pious practice to do, but being familiar with the text in the same way you'd be familiar with a friend, right? Knowing who Jesus is, because we have so many things written down, right? So when we're reading the Bible, right, remember that there's four particular ways to read. There's the literal, there's the allegory, there's the moral, and there's the anagogy, right? And so all these four, right, put together will give us a greater understanding of why we have the sacred scriptures and how it can apply to our lives. But I think the most simple way and probably the most important way is to be familiar with the scriptures, because that's how we get familiar with Christ. St. Jerome says ignorance of scripture is ignorance of Jesus. And I think that's a beautifully important and a kind of a biting point to make, because again, if we're not familiar with the sacred scriptures, then it's impossible to be familiar with Christ. And admittedly, none of us are as familiar as we possibly can be with Scripture. So there's always more you can learn. I also want to encourage you, if you haven't checked out Father Mike Schmitz, he has a podcast called Bible in a Year. You can do that, right? Very short, 25 to 40 minute segments each and every day, going through the entirety of the Bible in one full year. So in 2024, right, we have so many beautiful, wonderful ways in which to enter into the sacred scriptures. But starting off, right, simply put, just read the Gospels. All right? Hope that helps. Hope you can dive into the sacred scriptures, and we'll see you again next week. God bless.